This is Lori Silverman with the third episode of Level Up with Lori. Today, my guest is market strategist Vicki Sullivan. And what we're going to be talking about is thought leadership dead? And what should we be doing if it is? I would like to welcome all of you who are joining us today. So please let me know if you're listening in and where you're listening from. I'm going to take a look here at my iPad while I'm also chatting a little bit with Vicki. Vicki, welcome.
Hi, I'm thrilled to be here.
Thank you. I wanted to share with our listeners how I first met you, and that was probably before 2007 when I was a member of the National Speakers Association, and you used to speak almost every single year at their conference, their national conference.
Yep.
And I became enamored with your work. And one of the reasons I became enamored is because of what you actually added to this title, which was no holds barred, that you were transparent out there and always very real and honest with all of us.
Yep. Yeah. Almost, almost in TMI territory,
That's okay with me because I always appreciate hearing those sorts of things. And I like to live life on the edge as well. As people know, I talk about being on the bough of the tree as farthest away as you can get from the trunk,
That's right.
With a branch that's kind of moving up and down. Yep. But I was really blessed in 2007 when I moved to Arizona from Wisconsin. And by the way, I live in Las Vegas now. But when I was originally living in Arizona, I asked a colleague of mine if he knew of anyone living in the area that I should meet. And he said, Vicki, absolutely Vicki. And she had worked with him. He had been internal to an organization and had become an external speaker and consultant, was moving toward a 6-figure income, but she took him to a 7-figure income. Now, this particular show today isn't just for people who are external to organizations, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We're going to talk about internal things as well. So I'd like to know who's with us today. I don't know if anybody has joined us yet, but please let yourself be known to us so that I can say hello to you as well. So I think where we need to start, Vicki, is with a definition of thought leadership. Like, what is it and what is it not in your eyes?
Well, thought leadership is, it's a big word, and, you line 5 people up, you're going to get 15 different definitions. Okay. So this is one person's definition from a strategy perspective. Thought leadership is the relationship that you have with your community in which you get the benefit of the doubt, even in the absence of information and evidence that you are right. Okay. In other words, people think you're right, even if there's no evidence that you were right. It's like you've seen it. Everybody's seen this and people make fun of it now in meetings and stuff like that, where someone will have an idea and everyone is like, oh, wow, that's a great idea. But someone else just said it 5 seconds before. Okay.
Yep.
Person B is the thought leader, right? Because they get the benefit of the doubt. They get instant approval. It's just a wondrous thing. It's the halo effect, basically, where, you could do no wrong.
You could do no wrong. Well, I would like to welcome today. We have a couple of folks already listening in. Wow, one of my colleagues from my consulting days back in the late 80s, Paul Fausta's with us.
Oh,
Daniel Simon's with us. They love the definition that you've put forward. So is thought leadership, when you say the word right, that you're right, is it an opinion? Is it an idea? Is it a fact? I mean, help to flesh that out a little bit more.
Well, that's what's so fascinating right now is that has changed. Okay. It used to be ideas, like your ideas are right. Now it's your approach and voice.
So give me an example of someone who was known for their thought leadership, like for ideas. Are we talking about someone like Adam Grant, who's at Harvard? Or, I mean, like, who are we talking about?
Okay, so let's talk about Adam Grant, because I'm a fan. Okay, I like Adam. I've seen him at TED, and I just think he's the neatest thing since sliced bread.
Okay.
Okay, so let's talk about him behind his back. All right. Okay. Like he cares, right? Like he's
Right.
going to care. Adam is a great example of someone who has a great voice. Okay. The way he explains things not only makes sense at 30,000 feet, but they also sound insightful. So think about it. He can talk about all sorts of stuff, right? I mean, he can talk about all sorts of ideas, all sorts of opinions and all that, and he just makes it sound so commonsensical. It's like when he says it, you're like, well, yeah, yeah, that makes sense. I agree with that. Let's do that. You know, that kind of thing. That is what thought leadership has become now. Now, in the past,
Okay.
leadership has been about an idea. Okay, you are known for having great ideas. You're known for having great insights. Therefore, you're a thought leader. And that's what is being disrupted.
So would an example of that be like Peter Drucker? Would you put him in that category then of having been a great thought leader, you know, in the original definition of the term?
Well, yeah, because he advocated a system.
Okay, so explain that a little bit more. Advocated a system.
Okay, what did Peter Drucker advocate? Quality, right?
Right.
Okay, he was all about quality. You know, I think it was back in the day, wasn't it total quality management?
Well, he was actually he partnered with Dr. Deming, who was about quality, but Peter Drucker really was a management guru, right? He wrote all of these prolific books about where management is, where management's going, the sorts
so
of
he was representative of the definition.
Correct. Yes.
So his big idea was defining leaderships and managers and all that stuff, right?
Right.
That's an idea, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And so the shift, so Adam Grant is really interesting. So let's go back to him for a second. He used to have like 30 to 45 minute to an hour long shows, podcasts, and videos with just himself.
Right.
Now he's down to like, I think it's like, what is it? The Management Minute.
Yeah.
With Adam Grant. So where is that shift taking place? So he's not like spewing tons and tons of content in front of us. He's actually pulled back a little bit.
Well, yeah. I mean, we now have the attention span of a gnat. I mean, we're all toddlers in big bodies now from an attention standpoint. We can't handle more than 2 or 3 minutes on video. Okay. So no, I mean, that's just part of the trends.
Well,
that's part of format trends.
Well, it is part of format trends, but I'm also wondering, and I'd love to hear if there are questions from our audience members as well, if they'd like to chime in here. But it also seems to me that what he's doing is he's taking this amazing amount of thought leadership that he has, which is many, 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 many years being steeped in research and academia and writing prolifically about topics. But what he's doing is he's putting it into, or codifying it in, it's not smaller bite-sized pieces just for our attention, but it's almost like smaller bite-sized pieces for reflection. I'm wondering if that makes a difference here.
It's all about the voice, Lori. I mean, just because he's done a lot of research and has a lot of great ideas, that's the old model of thought leadership. That's nice to have now.
Okay.
What makes him influential, in my opinion, okay, and what I'm seeing out there is his voice. The way he approaches it, he's engaging, he's approachable. You can listen to him without falling asleep. Okay. I mean, it's not watching paint dry. He's energetic, he's approachable, but he's not an idiot. Okay. So it's all good.
Yes, it is.
But what you're doing is you just mentioned that one of the biggest differences, in corporate America, they still want evidence-based. Okay. But that's no longer a differentiator.
So it's no longer a differentiator because why? Because everybody's
There's too much of it.
There's
There's too much of it. Whatever there's too much of, I don't care what it is, it becomes it becomes less valuable.
So hold that thought for just a second, because one of our audience members, Gaurav, says, probably I would say anyone who could articulate simple things and make people understand would be a good example of thought leadership. And I think that you're saying that's a good example of influence today rather than thought leadership.
Exactly.
Okay. So continue on with that and maybe do a little bit more on that distinction that you're talking about. But what you're saying is when there's a lot of it, when there's a lot of information to attach to, for example, on LinkedIn, anybody today can repost an article. Anybody today can comment on an article. Anybody today can post research. Anyone today can talk about
anybody today can have an insight. Anybody today can have a great idea. Great ideas are plentiful and you get them for free. See, I call this the dark side of abundance. Okay, stay with me on this.
Okay.
Anything that is out there, like you have a lot of it, it is in abundance in the marketplace, becomes commoditized. It's too plentiful. Celebrities call this oversaturation. When a celebrity is in the market too much, they have to kind of pull back. It's the same dynamic with thought leadership. If you have an abundance of ideas, pretty soon ideas become a dime a dozen. And become less valuable. They're no longer a differentiator. So
then if it's no longer a differentiator, then what is a differentiator today? I'm sorry, I got to take you there, right? Because
you go, baby. I'm there. Okay. I'm already there. Here's two things that are differentiators now.
Okay.
Your role and your voice. Now, here's the big thing, and people have not, and we're going to get slammed for this, so just stay with me, okay? I'm prepare for the onslaught, all right? Information is good, okay? But your role in the conversation and the voice and approach you use in that role is what increases your influence and therefore increases your thought leadership. It's not the idea.
So it's reversing. It's how fascinating.
It's style over substance. And this breaks my heart because I'm always a substance person. You know me, I like my substance. But the market is what the market is. Okay. And this is a generational thing. Stay with me. Okay. So I'm a woman of a certain age. Let's just put it that way. Okay. And I'm looking at some of these YouTubers and I'm like, what? Right? And yet some of these fashion V-bloggers or whatever, they're making $1 million a year. They are not doing this because they have a unique idea. They're doing this because their role in the fashion conversation has been girl next door, the fashionista that that you've always wanted to be, whatever. And that's what's influencing buying decisions. And when you influence buying decisions, you become the new next level of thought leadership. Thought leadership is about influence. It's about in whether you're in an organization, in a meeting, does what you say matter? And how people decide what matters has changed. So it's not that thought leadership is dead, it's being disrupted. And it's real easy for people our age to not get that.
So hold that thought for a second, because there's a couple of audience member comments
I want to only imagine.
So what people are saying is a dark side of abundance is a nice definition, Vicki, and I agree with you on this point in terms of, someone said voice modulation, but I think you're talking something even more than voice modulation. So let's
absolutely.
And then Rebecca said, and hi Rebecca, I think this is true. People respond to well-articulated stories. But I want to come back to something you said. You said it used to be that the idea led. It's not the idea, it's not the substance anymore that's leading.
Right.
It's the role and the style.
Uh-huh.
So continue to talk more about that with us.
Well, and again, you're going to get some feedback on this, but the pendulum swings between style and substance, and we're now on the style side. And the reason why we're on the style side is because there's so many good ideas out there and people can't tell the difference.
So let's take your example further. I'm in a meeting inside of an organization, and I now have to apply what you're saying. So 5 people in the meeting could have the exact same idea that I have. What is it from a style and role perspective that I could do to make certain that my voice was actually heard and acknowledged?
Well, the first thing you have to do strategically, and this is whether you're outside or inside, is you've got to decide what role you're going to play. Okay. And I'm going to use myself as an example. I am the visionary whisperer, right? So I'm whispering in their ear. I'm the strategist. I'm the person that's hiding behind the star, pulling the levers.
Right.
Okay. And I'm part strategist. I've got a heavy dose of truth telling. And I use a lot of analogies to make my point. So, originally I'm from, the heartland, rural Oklahoma. And I have been known to say a couple of times, that dog won't hunt. Okay. And that gets attention. Okay. So I'm known for telling the truth, but I do it in a respectful way, which now goes back to my voice. People know that I am a fighter advocate for them. They know that I've got their back. My clients know I've got their back. And if anything's going to happen to them, someone's going to go through me first. And that's easier said than done. Okay. So I have this reputation among my clients for being a fighter. And I'm known for being very passionate. And I'm known for being blunt, but not disrespectful. So I won't call somebody an idiot. I'll think it, but I won't say it. Okay. I won't say, hey, Joe Smith over here is an idiot, and let's proceed accordingly. I don't do that. That's disrespectful. But what I do is I'll give an analogy or an example about why. So I'm a big why person. So here's why I'm not a fan of that idea. Okay. I'm also an interpreter. So that's one of my roles. I interpret behavior. So I was just talking to a client the other day, and I said to him, look, here's why you got crickets in this meeting, or here's why you got crickets after sending that email. It's not opposition, it's confusion, and we can deal with that.
Got it. So let me see. There's a couple other comments that came in here. One is, so people making videos just for fun, that adds to garbage or formation on the internet is really what you're also saying, or not?
Yeah. But it's white noise. It's just white noise. What do you do? It's white noise.
But I think that what you're suggesting that any of us do first, whether we're internal or external, is say strategically, how do we want to be perceived?
Exactly. Right? You need to get strategic. Okay. Don't just wing this. Okay. Because now you're going to be all over the board and it's going to look confusing. People have to have expectations of you. So what I do with folks is I have this exercise of I call it the top 3 words. What are the top 3 words you want people to know about you? Okay. What do you want them to believe about you? Okay. I want people to know that I'm smart, approachable, and funny when I have to be. Okay. Smart, approachable, funny. Okay. I want them to they can depend on me to hear the truth, but it's going to be in such a way that, we're not firebombing anybody.
Right.
Okay. And it took me years because I used to be a really good firebomber. I used to just lob them over and hope for the best. Right.
And I want to raise my hand because I think I was there right with you. Well, what happens in those situations is you get a reaction.
Yeah.
But it's the after reaction is the one that's really, you're right. I've been let out of meetings. I've been, and now I'm like, well, it's one thing to tell the truth. It's another to be, I think, compassionate is the word that I use. How do I share the truth with compassion and in a way that still acknowledges that other perspectives may be out there without confronting them in such a manner that it's like it's a full-on hand grenade that's been lobbed over.
Exactly.
Am I hearing you correctly?
Exactly. And also, I'm the queen of the knee-jerk reaction. So part of my emotional journey in being strategic is how I respond to things. My head explodes on a daily basis, and I'm working on that, and I'm working on my response after that explosion. And it's usually not very pretty, and that's where the thought that this person's an idiot comes up most of the time, is in response to something. And I forget sometimes that there's a human being behind that stupid idea.
Yeah, well, that's right. But it's as you said, it's how do we think it, not say it. And but I'm also hearing you say that, when I think about the brand that I want to bring forward, right now we're talking about personal brand. Some it could be the brand of their company as well. Although I don't even think today, I'm in my 30th year of business, and I think that the brand that I bring is the brand of my company. I think they're one and the same, and that's part of the the change that's also happened. We can't separate out the actors from the business anymore, because it is now about role and style rather than substance.
Well, yeah, like I say to clients, your face is on the bucket of chicken, and so, like it or not, your face is right on there.
Right. So the first thing you want people to do is to think about 3 words that they would like to have people define them by.
Right. In other words, you need to get strategic and deliberate. Okay. And I'm a big fan of reverse engineering. So you get your 3 words. What are the 3 expectations? How do you want people to perceive you? Mm-hmm. What do you want people to expect from you? Because expectation is everything right now. Okay. You want to build expectations and influence expectations people have of you. Okay. And I'll use myself for example. Okay. People have the expectation that we're going to get stuff done. Okay. And, there might be some blown up buildings and some burned out cars, but going to get done.
Right.
All right. So that's an expectation. Another expectation is people expect the truth from me. Okay. They also expect me to support them. Mm-hmm. There's no, we check our egos in at the door. We're working together for a bigger cause, a bigger outcome.
Right. But there's another piece to this, and I think that you said, and I want to bring this out because I think this is true for many of us. I'm in a similar role as you. I, for years, have always been the person behind C-suite leaders.
Right.
I've worked across 25 different industries with a lot of different business leaders, and have always been the voice in their ear. The voice of reason is what I talk about it as, the voice of reason.
Okay.
But now there's a time, when I say to myself, well, hey, I have a voice too. And so many of us, I think that even people in organizations, we hide behind. We've hidden behind our group. We've hidden behind our boss. We've hidden behind it. But now I want to have a voice.
Right.
So I can have my 3 words, and then what do I do next? What are some things?
Well, you reverse engineer it. You ask yourself, what do I have to do? What do I need to present as in order to be described as that? What are my tools of the trade? And what I use, and I'm just being transparent here, I use my background from the rural area of Oklahoma, and my clients tease me. There is not a conversation that doesn't have the word dang in it. I get teased about it all the time. I'm like, well, dang. And it's, and that's not intentional. I don't look for a reason to say that, but it's just an outgrowth of, hey, this is my background. This is who I am, you know? And I had to stand up and take care of an issue at one of our Harvard board meetings one time. And someone came up to me and they said, you have the most beautiful Southern accent I never knew. And that's because I don't speak out a lot, you know, but when I speak, y'all gonna listen, you know, and the executive director knows that if I raise my hand, it's like, oh God, Vicki's raising her hand. This is going to be good. You know, something is about to happen. We don't know what, but it'll be good. It'll be transformative. And so what you do, a long answer to your short question, is you reverse engineer it. What do you have at your disposal that is uniquely you, that you can bring out from a style voice standpoint and implement that role? Okay. And there's all sorts of tools to the trade. Okay. There's analogies, there's examples, there's alliteration,
story,
there's juxtaposition. Yeah. You know, there's story, especially in content marketing. You know, you can, and if you're internal, you could say, hey, you know what? This reminds me of the time we did blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Remember that? Here's what we've learned, you know, that kind of thing. So there's all sorts of ways. There's all sorts of tools of the trade. But the key is you got to get strategic first. So many people don't get strategic. So what happens, especially internals? Internals, I'm looking at you right now. Okay. Sorry, but y'all do this. I see it too many times, right? Y'all just focus on being confident, but you don't look at what you want people to expect from you. And what happens as a result of that, I'm on a rant, stay with me.
Okay.
What happens as a result of that is when your superiors are in the room and you got that choice assignment on the table, you got to be top of mind. And you're not going to be top of mind if people don't have expectations of you.
Well, and I think it goes back to something else that you said. When I think about the number of people who are connected to me who are more technical in nature, you know, data analysts, business analysts, data scientists, and so on, is that we think, it goes back to something you said at the beginning, is that we think that they're going to make the choice based on our knowledge, based on our subject matter expertise. And I think what you're saying is that's leveled. That field has leveled, and they're not going to do that. It's, you know, what are the expectations they have of us, and then how does that marry up with the role? So
what are you known for? Okay, even technical people have to be known for something, right? And I'm going to use another quasi personal example. I have an accountant, right? And she is smart as a whip. I mean, you know, she is an expert witness at all these IRS trials and stuff like that, but she's also a people person. Now let's look at the juxtaposition here. Numbers person, people have, you know, a certain picture in their head about that, yet she's just the opposite from a style standpoint. That makes her stand out. So I know that I could gripe to her about anything and she's going to keep me out of jail. Right. So it's like, well, why can't I do this? And why can't I do that? And she'll say, Vicki, just trying to keep you out of jail. Why not? You know? And so it's become a joke, actually.
Well, but I think that this can work. This can work to your advantage, and it can also work to your disadvantage. So, let me give you, for instance, and I just want to make look at our comments here again. So Rebecca saying, thank you, Vicki and Lori, great conversation. And Gorham said to us, we have to start thinking about the three words, the three really simple words about ourselves. But let's say that the expectation is that I'm really good at fixing messes.
You're the cleanup crew.
I'm a cleanup person, but that's not the way I want to continue to be perceived.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Because you're going to get a reputation one way or the other.
Correct. Right.
You're going to get a reputation.
So I think that what you're also saying is, so there's another piece to this, which is how are you already being perceived, right? It's not just, right, the three words and the perceptions you want people to have of you, but how are you already being perceived? And what are you going to do to switch? If this isn't matching this over here, then what are you going to do to kind of make this shift happen? And that's part of a challenge too, if I'm hearing you correctly.
That's right. And you got to understand the gap. A lot of people are invisible, which if you have a blank slate, strategically, that's good because now you can write on the blank slate. Right. What happens is a lot of people create expectations by default. They're not strategic about it in the first place. And so now they have a reputation that's not valuable to them, that they need to change. And there's a way to do that.
And so take me through that, a little bit of that process about, well, because I think that's true. I don't think there's a lot of people who are invisible. I mean, even people who have, I think, 10,000 followers on LinkedIn could still be invisible.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Because they don't know, if people don't know what to expect from you, you may have followers, but they're not paying that much attention and they're sure not going to buy or recommend you or anything.
Right. So it's not a numbers game. Right. For those of us who are trying to externally make ourselves known, it's really about the posturing or positioning. But what if it's not what I want? Then what's the first thing or one thing I can do to start to make that change happen?
Well, the first thing you do is you build a bridge. And I'm going to use your example as an example. Let's say someone has a reputation for being the cleanup crew. Mm-hmm. All right. So I'm going to pretend like they're my client. Okay. What I would say to them is, okay, so what you can do is you can leverage that experience into a new expectation. Why don't you be the heads up person? And you can say, okay, as someone who's cleaned up this mess, I have a heads up that's going to prevent it in the first place. So you can change into the heads up person, the crystal ball gazer, the one who can see around corners now, instead of being the cleanup crew. And you can even joke about it and say, you know what? I've been in this movie too. Let me tell you how it turns out. Or yeah, been down that road. Let's hook a Yui. That kind of thing, right? And again, it goes back to your style, but you can springboard a previous expectation into a new expectation.
Well, stay with that a second, because I think that actually fits in someplace else well. So I'm gonna go down a little bit of a path that is a bit of a challenge, I think, to some of not all of the people who might be listening to this, but I'm going to use age. Because I'm gonna use myself here, okay?
Okay, you go. So, I'm in the same boat, so you go.
Well, it's I tell people I'm gonna be 62 in 2020. And I'm looking forward to it. But I've got like 40 some years of work experience behind me, right? It's very easy to be dismissed for that. To say, oh, your knowledge is old. It's old. It doesn't apply. It doesn't. And so we also, that's part of the challenge that some people have, right? In terms of being that influencer now, I think, right? Versus because they want to lead with thought. Well, I have all this years of experience.
Right. You don't lead with that. Mm-hmm. You don't lead with that. You don't tell people how many years you've been in business. Don't lead with that. Part of message strategy is what leads, what leads and what gets buried. You bury that.
Well, but so go a little bit further with me, though. I think that it fits into your example of crystal balling, because it's like been there, done that, right?
Yeah.
Person who's been there, done that. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I'm just going to say to you, here's a caution.
Yeah, here's a heads up.
Here's a heads up.
Here's what you got to watch for. If this happens, this is about to happen.
Right.
Watch for action, or watch for this, or if you run across this, what you do is you get specific to the situation at hand. And here's what happens, Lori. If you start being known as the accurate predictor, like, oh, Lori told us this was going to happen and it happened exactly the way she said, that's what they focus on.
Right.
And you can say, look, I'm the last person to say I told you so. Here's what we learned from blah, blah, blah.
Right. Exactly.
Okay? And you can even joke with people, say, now you remember who told you this, so the next time something comes up, you come running to me and I'll help you.
Yeah.
I got more of that.
Yeah.
I got more of that.
Well, because what it is, it's the invitation to continue the conversation.
Right.
right? And to continue the development of that new expectation and the repositioning of that expectation.
So it's about applying your experience, not telling people you have experience.
Right, exactly.
So don't say that. I don't tell people how many years I've been in business. Nobody cares. They care about what I'm doing right now and what I know right now and how I can help them right now.
Right, exactly. Let me see if our audience, I haven't seen any.
I can only imagine.
No, I'm going to ask them. It might take them a few minutes, but if you have questions to raise to us,
I'll answer anything I can.
Absolutely. Things you'd like Vicki to clarify, please go ahead and ask those now, or comments that you would like us to address. That would be lovely. So let's take this into the world of, since we're on LinkedIn Live, let's take this into the world of social media, right? Because we've talked about the internal piece, and the 3 words apply everywhere, and the reverse engineering piece applies everywhere. But now let's talk about, because a lot of people want to be known on social media, whether it be in the future, I might want a new job, or maybe I want to get invited to speak at a conference, or maybe I want people I just want some pats on the back to say, hey, that's a great, an interesting approach or a new insight. So talk to us about how this shift from substance to style to role to expectations also fits in the external world.
Sure. Okay. So the first thing you do on social media is you got to stake out your territory. Okay. Where does your approach fit in the ecosystem? Okay, so I'm going to give you an example.
Mm-hmm.
If someone wants to be a thought leader in leadership, that's way too big. That's too much territory to defend. But what they could be is they could focus all their content marketing, all their posts and stuff like that, leadership under fire. They could do it like as in a situation. Now, and I'm going to use myself as an example. What I do on social media is I focus on strategy and structure.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say, here's the strategy behind this situation. I'll use situations as examples. And I'll focus the attention on strategy. I'll say, okay, well, this just happened. Here's why that worked. Okay, so it's a strategy issue. Here's why that worked. And then I'll say, check out the structure. Check out the structure. This structure will help you implement your best perspective. So it's all about standing out in crowded markets, but my territory is strategy and structure.
Right. So what you're saying is you can't just choose a huge field.
You cannot.
I see
too much to defend.
Right. So I see this with posts all the time, and I'll go back to the folks, some of the folks who are connected to me in the data field. Someone will make a post about data science, and here are the skills that every data scientist should have, or here are the competencies that they should have, or here are the sorts of experiences or knowledge and tools and techniques. But what you're saying is that's too big. That
is too big.
You have to really narrow it down and say, what is it about that? Are you going to focus on the foundational issues and helping people who want to learn and want to get into the field? So that could be a niche that you're in. Another niche could be something like maybe you are the opposite of that. Maybe you only want to work with those who have the highest of highest expertise. And, how do you take them to the next level? Correct?
Right. So you could do, but you have to be deliberate, and you got to be strategic, and you got to decide. Okay. And you got to be consistent. I see a lot of social media efforts lack in consistency. They're all over the place. And when people don't have expectations of you, then you're not known for something. And you've got to be top of mind of something, or you're going to be invisible. You're going to become part of the white noise.
So even with your best intentions, if I'm hearing you correctly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No one sets out and to be an idiot. I mean, come on. No one wakes up one day and says, you know what? I'm going to be an idiot today. Yeah, that's what I want to do. No one does that. No.
But what you're saying is, so even with the best of intentions, so people who are out there every single day posting and adding things, if they're not intentional about the lane
Right.
and focus, and then back to those expectation setting,
Right.
they're still going to, it's just going to be the noise in the background. People
They
might
become
notice.
white noise. Yeah.
Right? You're gonna
So
notice.
so the big challenge in social media is you don't want to be part of the white noise.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so the comment that was made here is there's a vastness of social media so big that when you focus on one strategy, new things come up and your focus gets digressed. How do you keep focus?
Well, I mean, I'm going to use myself as an example. If I stick with strategy and structure, I can take that to any platform. I take that to LinkedIn. I take it to Twitter. My role a lot of times is that on social media is that of reporter. So you may have noticed, because I spend a lot of time on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook, is when I'm reporting, when I'm at TED or I'm at Harvard and I'm hearing the latest and the greatest, I'm reporting in real time. And you'll get like 10 or 15 posts in a day if the speaker says something killer. I'll just say, this just in, or from blah, blah, blah. Here's the line. And people love it because they feel like they're there. Now, I do that very deliberately for brand building. I want people to know what's going on out there, and I want to share the spotlight. I want them to feel like they're sitting right next to me at these invitation-only events and hearing killer stuff.
Right, but what it's saying is that it's not that you allow those things to digress you, what you've done, and let me bring it back to your 3 words. Because one of your 3 words could be, I want to be known as that person who's not just reporting, but reporting on what's on the leading or bleeding edge.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
I mean, that's something that you and I share. We kind of like want to be out there saying what's really new and different in our own fields. For you, it's strategy and structure. For me, it's sitting under that, what I now call data literacy 2.0 or decision intelligence or strategic thinking. But it's that, how do you raise the expectation that people can come to you for those new pieces while that's still not losing, it's not losing focus.
Right.
They know you for that. Am I hearing you correctly?
Well, yeah, because what that does is that demonstrates what people can expect of me. Mm-hmm. They expect me to know what's going on. And this also deal with the age thing? Okay. I mean, if you're showing up at cool places, do people care how old you are?
No. No, they
don't. It's
don't.
all about directing the focus, my love. Direct that focus.
Right. But I think, it's getting, I think what I'm gleaning from the time that we've spent together so far is it's really getting clear yourself.
You have to.
Right?
You have to. Yeah.
It's a tremendous amount of reflection. And I don't think actually that it would hurt for people to ask others, if you were to give 3 words about me, that would define who you think I am, what would those 3 words be?
Yeah, and I have a name for that. It's called reconnaissance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's good to know how you're already perceived. And it's good because no one knows how they come off, right? So it's good to know that. It's good to have that as a base. And then you ask yourself, do I want that? What else do I want? So you can see the gap. It's good to know how you come off. Like one time I found out years ago that people thought I was always pissed off. I'm not mad. I'm just emphatic,
Mm-hmm.
But my emphaticness, right? My passion was coming off as angry. Someone once told me, they said, and they meant this as a compliment. They said, you're the pissed off little sister I've never had. And I'm like, and it kind of, it jolted me. And I'm like, well, I don't feel pissed off, but I sounded pissed off, right? So that kind of reconnaissance is very valuable. Absolutely.
Well, and not just from people, I think, who've known you for a long time, because they are right, but it's also from people who's you're just getting to meet, or their acquaintance, again, on social media and other places. If you strike up a conversation with them, it becomes an interesting way to get some reflective feedback, and then to be able to sit back and say, okay, how do I shape that? Because what I'm taking away from this is what I would do, and the audience members might do something different. I could see myself creating a mind map, and putting like, Lori,
You're so visual. I mean, I totally see that. Yeah.
Right. Putting my name in the center and then having these 3 lines come off, and then having the branches come off of there to say, what is it that I'm doing that supports those pieces? But again, I think the thing that we have to continue to stress is this is not about content. It's not about content. It's about you as a person. And I think that's the hardest thing, because people think that their distinctiveness is the content area. I work in, HR, and I'm bringing forward new and different HR ideas, or I'm, working in, like I am, like I know a woman who's bringing forward the field of decision intelligence. That's still not it. That's not one of those 3 branches, just to stress again.
That's just the place you play in, right? Correct. That's the place you play in. It took me many years, and again, this is TMI about me here. It took me, I used to be just exactly that it's all about the ideas, it's all about the work. And in my early years, I say, nobody cares about me as a human being. I just need to do good work, and the word will get out. And it did to a certain extent, but I had enough clients that cared enough about me to say, Vicki, we need to know that you're a human. Okay. We need to know that who you are as a human being, so people can feel comfortable with you.
Right.
And that was a big aha for me in my journey, because I used to be Miss, it's all about the work, it's all about the ideas, it's all about the innovation. People don't need to know about me. Why do they care about me? They don't. Let's just help them. It's all about them. It's really about comfort.
Yeah. And you know what? As I'm listening to you, I'm thinking how this really plays into a whole shift in website design. Right? Because if I think about webmasters today, they think about what is the content that you're bringing, and that may not be the way you want to project yourself. For those of you out there who are entrepreneurs, small business owners,
how about the voice, and about how the design handles the voice, demonstrates the voice. How do the visuals demonstrate the voice? Right. Absolutely.
And that's really cool. So if this is the next step, moving from, disrupting thought leadership, right? And it's moving away from the content to more about style and voice and the role you want to play in the expectations. What's next, Vicki? Extend that line for me, because that's where you play.
Yeah.
And so just take it a little bit further and say, where is this going to go? Because, I could hear some people, and I've said this to you as well. I said this to you in August over a lunch. I said, well, are we talking about being the Kardashians? And kind of laughed at me, because a lot of people go, I don't want to be a Kardashian.
I know. And you know what? It reminds me of a conversation that I had with a congressperson, and I'm not going to tell you who it is. It's not important. But they said something to me I've never forgotten. They said, you can legislate or you can be a political Kardashian. Choose one. And what they were saying is that it takes so much energy to be out in the spotlight and record every single thing you do and get people interested in every single thing you do, that you cannot drill down on the details and legislate. And I thought that was fascinating, in the political field. So here's what I see happen next.
Okay.
And it's gonna get worse before it gets better. Okay. You're gonna see a lot of branded communities. You're gonna see a lot of cult dynamics come into play. And I think that if we go to the dark side of that, we will head toward the light. But I think we need to go dark first. I think that we are going to continue to be polarized. I think I think loyalty is the coin of realm right now, which is an outgrowth of attention. Right now, attention has been monetized. I think what's next is loyalty will be monetized, and it's already started. Mm-hmm. It's already started, and I think that it will go where attention is going, where attention is now. Loyalty will be the next monetization.
So that's really intriguing, but I want to come back to your other comments as well. I don't want to lose them about it being a brand. I think you said brand, community, and a cult.
Well, okay, so now this is where we're really going to get in trouble. Okay, so buckle up. All right, you're going to get some comments on this. There, from a structural standpoint, okay, not intent. No one's intending to build a cult.
Correct.
Just from a strategy and structure standpoint, there is a strategy and structure around cults. Okay, there is a system of rewards and punishment for conform, right? You're going to see those dynamics bleed into the marketplace. They already have.
Okay, so if they have, what's an example of that?
Okay, now here's a more recent example.
Okay.
And this is in the political realm. So now we're skating on thin ice. Okay.
Yes, we are.
Now let's just pretend like we're having lunch and this is not being recorded. Okay. But we had a situation, I believe, with a fitness company who had a major investor invest in a political candidate that didn't appear to be the same values than the fitness company or the fitness company patrons. Okay. Doesn't matter who they are. This, I'm just talking, this is the strategy. The strategy was, we are going to build a loyal following out of a set of values, and then an investor violated those values in the opinion of the customers. So there was a boycott. And they're like, and it's like 19% said we're not showing up this day, and they felt it. Okay.
Wow.
Stock shares dived. People had to explain themselves. The investor himself had to come out and explain himself. There was a whole lot of explaining going on. Okay. That brand of that fitness company had the dynamics built in from a structural standpoint. I'm not saying this was on purpose, but from a structural standpoint that resembles the same structure that is in a cult. Okay. Now, I know cults are bad, and I know there's a big connotation around that word. Okay. There is a strong mental picture around that word cult. But if you can set that aside for a second and look at the structure, how people are bound around values, how there's a system of rewards and punishment for defying those values or not conforming to those values. That's where we have all this. I think the kids call it now. Okay, I'm going to show my age here, so stay with me. The cancel culture. Okay, that's kind of new. Yeah. All right. Yes. That's okay. There you are. Okay. Right. Violate our values and you're out.
You're gone. You're gone.
Yeah. Okay. And that's going to get worse before it gets better. Okay. And here's the thing. Right now, in our current stage, there's not a whole lot of nuance going on. When I see around the corner, I see some nuance. I see as we evolve, we're going to have a less black and white structure and a more nuanced structure. I am hopeful, at least, that will happen.
So if you had to give, like for those of us who are kind of on that edge, like looking forward, if you had to give us one word of advice about something we should do to be mindful of this, because when you say cult, the first word that comes to my mind is tribe.
I know.
Like, that's a safer word, right?
Yeah.
And I think about it, and most people know this about me. I go to Coachella Music Festival every year. This year, I've had my ticket since last June, but this year's an interesting lineup, because they're bringing back Rage Against the Machine, and that's a political statement. So now it's ooh, I'm going to the #1 music festival in the world, right?
Yeah.
But I talk about the reason I go is that it's my peeps, it's my tribe. But there are rules. There are rules. I mean, there are rules when you are there. There are rules about how you're going to behave, and the rules are around social responsibility. There are rules around where you will and will not drink. You know, what you will and will not bring in. There's a laundry list like a mile long of all the things you will not bring, and it's very specific. And your bag, when you bring it, like my backpack, every inch of my backpack, right? That's what you're talking about, right? That's that level, but it's going to happen on a social media level.
Right.
I'm hearing you correct.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and I think it goes back to something that I've seen you do. So I'm going to use you as an example here, because I know we've talked about this, is that when you put up something that's a bit controversial on a topic, you say to people, you're very clear about, I only accept respectful comments.
I had to. Right? Oh my God, war breaks out. Right. I mean, I was gone one time, and you and I talked about this, just for people listening. Okay, so I put in a post, and you have to make your point very clear, because I've got friends on all sides of the political aisle. So if I use a political example, I have to be very clear about my point, or it's going to get mismatched real quick. And so I was gone for like an afternoon. I had clients, I had work, an afternoon, and war breaks out. And I'm like, what the hey? You know, what? And so I started deleting stuff. And I'm like, you dude, delete. You dude, delete.
But that's the cancel. It's not canceling them as a person. But the reason I share that is it doesn't necessarily have to even be a political topic anymore, right?
Yeah.
It can be a topic that someone nonchalantly posts on LinkedIn. It could be a article that has a controversial piece to it, a piece of research that's just come out. I saw this recently. It was hilarious. A piece of research came out about how successful data initiatives have been inside of organizations. And all these data folks said that they disagreed with the data. In the report. I was laughing because I said to myself, do I want to be the voice of reason here? I actually thought about it.
And part of message strategy and part of thought leadership is deciding what conversation you're going to participate in. There's a lot of conversations I say, you know what, I'm going to pass that by.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. But it's also about, do I want to point this out, like the irony out, or do I just want to be an observer of it? Right. And then think about that the next time I post relative to the brand that I'm bringing forward, or to that voice and that role that I play.
Do you want to participate, or is this part of reconnaissance? Exactly. And what I do is I use political examples sometimes, because number one, they're so obvious. Okay. You just have to do it. And second, because people are aware. What I'm doing is I'm leveraging the awareness of the situation, and I'm hoping to appear innovative by pointing out something people hadn't thought of. So feedback that I get a lot is, you make me think, or I hadn't thought about a situation this situation, which I already knew about, I didn't think about it from that angle.
Right.
And that makes me stand out, because now people expect of me, hey, you're going to get a perspective you hadn't thought of before.
Right.
And that's good for my business model. It's good for me, because as a way I want to contribute as a human being. I just, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just going to tell you something to think about.
Right. Well, and I think that's an excellent way of shifting the frame to fit within the expectations that you want other people to continue to have of you.
Exactly.
And I just kind of bring this full circle as we're ending the hour here today. I do have to smile. I got a comment that says that I'm detail oriented, and I had to laugh because I thought I think what I excel at is the ability to tease apart, to see the big picture and then dig deeper and to add more color and clarity to it. So I do have to smile at that. Vicki, this has been an amazing hour with you. Thank you for your
thanks. It's been fabulous.
Well, it's you've given us, and I want to come back to something you just said. You've given us a tremendous amount to think about. I can see people listening to this more than once because I think that there is so much to glean from the comments that are here. When I put this up, folks, there will be 2 ways that you can rewatch this video, both here on LinkedIn and also where it's being multi-streamed onto YouTube. On YouTube, I will put all of Vicki's contact information. You can connect to her on LinkedIn, and I'll also include her website and other places where you can get. You put out a tip or a newsletter is it every week or every couple weeks? I know
I blog twice a week, and it's called Tips, Trends, and Tirades. Okay. And so if you sign up on my website, you get a free special report about standing out. And you also get my email every 2 weeks. And there's really nothing promotional about it. I mean, there's not like, hey, buy my stuff. I mean, there's really nothing like that. It's just things to think about. And it's tools. Again, we go to strategy and structure. Here's some techniques. Here's some tactics that you can really stand out and make your perspective more valued in the environment that you're in.
Yes, thank you. That's a lovely offer to my guests. So with this, I'm going to sign off for today. Vicki, once again, thank you, and I look forward to future conversations.
You bet. We'll see ya. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.